So we've been discussing E-words this month that speak to our community, and today we're talking about expanding. And I love this term expanding. I love something that Ernest Holmes, our founder, said about expanding, and he said it in something that he called the Declaration of Principles. He said, "We believe in the eternality, immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding." That's a powerful statement to me that spoke kind of to his ideas of the afterlife. And Holmes didn't necessarily describe himself as a seer, so he figured, just like the rest of us, he had no idea what happens when we die, but this was kind of his theory. He didn't necessarily go along with this idea that the lights just go out and that's it, as much sometimes as sometimes we might want to break and like that idea that it just turns off. Nor did he go along with the idea that the afterlife was a reward or punishment for how you were in life. So he didn't necessarily believe that we went way up into heaven or way down into hell. Nor did he believe, as many mystics do, that when you die you kind of return to a kind of Godhead, that you're no longer your individual self but become kind of one with everything and forget the name that you were born with. But for Holmes, he really believed that you are always an individual, even before you were born, and always will be, that we always have a personality. I think the rough part of that is for some of us, or some folks out there who think that they're going to get all the answers when they die, it's kind of unfortunate to realize that they're just as dumb as before they died after, trying to figure things out. But what I like most about what he's having to say is that you can't escape your own consciousness. That our consciousness is that vehicle in which we appreciate and experience and share in our lives, and nothing or no one can ever take it away from us. And the richer our consciousness, the more expanded our consciousness, the richer and more expansive our experience of life. And nothing, not even death, not even the afterlife, can take that away from us, or that responsibility to expand our own consciousness from us. Now, these words of Holmes about life forever and ever expanding, I think they apply too to our everyday lives. I feel like I'm in a life that's forever and ever expanding, and for some of us you may feel that way but see it as a negative. I just wish it would decrease a little bit so I could calm down, right? But the truth is, for me, is I love the idea of being restful even in the fullness of life. I love the idea of having some stillness even in the midst of strong changes. I love the idea of being grateful no matter what, so that I'm able to get as much in of the great blessings and gifts of life that I can. But what spirituality teaches us, and what I've learned, is that as expansive as life can be around us, we can only experience it to the degree that we have done that expanding work within ourselves. That real spiritual growth, real spiritual expansion isn't about an outward expression. It's always about an inward expansion. It's up to us to lay that groundwork to have a deeper, grander, more enriching experience of our lives. We completed a class a few weeks ago called Spiritual Narrative, and we had some great students in the class, and the final assignment was for the students to just share with the group kind of a little bit their true story, their spiritual narrative, what they really knew to be most true about themselves. And one of the members, her name is Christy Jacoy, and I'm so grateful that she gave me permission to share her list of responses that she shared with the group about what her spiritual truth was, her life truth. She shares, "I am human and a divine child of God. I love and am loved. Joy finds me regularly in many contexts. Life is good, my life is good, and I have a good life. I am grateful for all that I am and all that I have. My intentions are always good and motivated by balancing what is good for me and for others. My life's journey is always interesting and interestingly endless. I have good fortune and good luck. Many meaningful relationships enrich my life. I am open to wisdom and prosperity. Goodness and humor color my life regularly. I am perfect, whole, and complete, but unfinished. I appreciate the process of always becoming. I am interested in far too many things to dwell on my experience of loss and failure. I am grateful for what they have taught me, but they are not the truth about me. The truth of who I am is far more interesting. I am grateful for all this and more. And I love what she had to share, and she was here at first service, but let's still just give her a round of applause. Yes. The first thing that I get from that is I really admire her sincerity, her humor, her creativity, and what I get about Christy, she's someone who's really earned those statements. I know that there's a story behind each one of those. The second thing I get from that is that they're all expressions not about exterior circumstances, but that depth of inner life. It proves this point that two people could be experiencing or living the same exact life. One person could be drawing so much richness, enchantment, and joy from their lives, and the other could be miserable, unhappy, unaware of any good that's going on. Is that a statement about their conditions, about what's going on around them, or is that a statement about the inward life that they cultivate and reflect? I love Christy's emphasis on being a sincere and authentic being, on not being a product, but being someone who's consistently becoming in her life. It speaks not necessarily to what's going on in her life, but to the depth of her own being, that she's able to make herself an incredible person no matter what may be going on in their lives. And I think it's a big deal for us to ask ourselves in our lives when it comes to what we really want to create, when it comes to what we really want to be experiencing. Are we really developing it from a place of knowing our wholeness, of knowing who we are? I know that there's a lot of people in this room that are waiting for a demonstration in their lives. The right relationship, a new job, financial success, maybe just some peace of mind. And I would never go so far as to say that the stars won't align to bring you those things until you figure out some sort of riddle going on within. But what I will say is that we certainly can't have these things if we aren't ready for them. Your heart's desire could be staring you right in the face. And yet, if your life is unable to contain it, to manage it, to say yes to it, to live with it in fullness, those heart's desires, those things that we want, the opportunities for them can pass us right by. It's up to us to do that inner foundational work of expanding who we are within so that we can say yes to our heart's desire and know that it's there. We're starting a class on Viktor Frankl on Tuesday, and one of the stories that I love that he tells, it's a simple but profound one to me, is it's about a man who came to see him for therapy after seeing another therapist for 5 or 6 years. And this man had been a part of the U.S. military. He was a career serviceman. He was a serviceman through Vietnam years. That's when the story happened. And he was finding himself unhappy in his work. He was finding himself kind of out of alignment with what the U.S. was choosing to do at that time. It's not a story about Edison, who was at the Hanoi Hilton during that time. He gave it 4 stars on TripAdvisor, but he did that. No problem. We love Edison. That was funny. Hanoi Hilton gave it 4 stars. Okay, 5 years prepared you. But in this particular story, the gentleman's sharing with Frankl that he'd been seeing a therapist who decided or told him that the reason he was struggling so much with his job is because he had transferred his father image onto the military, and if he could work on his relationship with his father, he would finally be more happy with his job. So Frankl took a simple but different approach. He said, have you thought about changing careers? And to be honest, the man really hadn't done that. And so he did quit his job, and he went and got a new job. And Frankl reports that 5 years later, I've checked in with this guy, and he's doing pretty well and pretty balanced. But it speaks to the most simple idea that so many of us sometimes get so caught up thinking that there's something wrong with us, so caught up thinking that there's something missing from us, that we have to get filled from some other place, so caught up living in different people's ideas of who we're supposed to be or what we think the world is supposed to be, that we forget that the most precious and important thing is who we are and what we want. and what we want to create in our lives, to get back to that simple question of who am I and what do I want, from a place of wholeness, not of what is wrong with me. And when we get to that point, we can begin to make those choices that better serve who we are on the inside, so that we can embrace a better outside. One of my favorite parables of Jesus, and Jesus is a great storyteller, and one of the great things about Jesus telling stories is no matter how many interpretations you have out there, there's something about a story that always keeps a little bit of truth to it. And so one of my favorite stories that Jesus tells is the story of the 10 virgins who go out at night with their lamps to search for the bridegroom. And many people interpret that story today to be about the impending return of Jesus after his death. But to me, it's really a parable that's about we as individuals in this thing called consciousness and the importance of cultivating a strong inner life. And in the story, 10 maidens all grab their lamps to go out, and 5 of them have oil for their lamps that will last the whole evening. The others just bring a little bit of oil with them. Their thinking is that when the bridegroom shows up, or the person they might be looking for, that's when they can light their lamps. And those folks, to me, are very symbolic of those of us who say, oh, well, when the right person shows up, then I'll be happy. You know, when that money works out, then I just know there'll be a smile on my face and I'll be successful. When A, B, and C take place, then I'll be what I want to be. They're an example of all of us who hold on to our happiness, withhold our own good because we're waiting for something to happen around us to fulfill us. The ladies who do bring the oil, who always keep their light burning, they're representative of the people who know that life is an inside job, that it starts by cultivating a willingness to say yes to what we want, to always be ready, to always live in our joy, to always live as our highest and spirit-inspired selves. I can't help but think about the story of Nasruddin, who once proclaimed that he could see in the dark, and then someone said, well, why are you carrying around a lamp? He said, so nobody bumps into me. That's why he says so to me, in Jesus' story, the virgins or the maidens are all of us. The bridegroom is our highest good. It's what all of us are seeking. The lamp is our consciousness, and the oil, that's our true knowledge. It's our true spirit. And although we're all equal in this life, we might say that some of us have more oil available to us than others. In the story, the bridegroom does appear. And what happens is the ladies who want to light the lamp, they don't have enough oil. They're trying to borrow it from someone else. They're trying to go to the store and buy some. And isn't that the thing about consciousness, is no one can give you a better consciousness. Nobody can improve it for you. You can't buy a better consciousness. You can't ask someone to have some of theirs. You have to cultivate it yourself. So when the bridegroom appears, they are unable to meet with him. The maidens who do have their lights on and shining, the bridegroom takes them and he runs off with them, and that's kind of where the story ends. So don't ask me what happens next. I know it's a little weird. I think that maybe this is the first recorded episode of The Bachelor, so I'm sure he passed out roses. But again, recognizing that the bridegroom represents the highest good, I do see it in this sense. And so the question for us is, when it comes to bringing the light of our own awareness into our lives, is it lit? Are we taking that time to bring plenty of oil with us? Are we taking daily time to be in contemplation, to be thoughtful, to center ourselves in what is most sacred to us in life, so that we're living from it and for it, so that when our highest good does show up around us, we are ready and willing to say yes to it. Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind, which we're using as our book of the month this month, he talks about prayerfulness and knowing what you want. He says, we must be specific in what we do, while at the same time never outlining how it should be done. I like that statement. We must be specific in what we do, while at the same time never outlining how it should be done. To me, it's a spiritually mysterious statement, because it's really about saying, don't not know what you want, but know that first, enrich your own consciousness. Know who you are, so that if something that shows up is even beyond or perhaps better than what you want, you're ready to say yes to it. You're not attached to that other aspect of being. Holmes goes on, it is going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. It's going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. So the deeper we go into cultivating who we are, the more ourselves and our lives become expansive. Sometimes it's one of the hardest things to confess, but I know it's true for me, maybe it's true for some of you, but the common fact of my life is sometimes I'm very safe in my issues. I get very comfortable in my problems. I don't like them, but they're the devil I know, and so to let them go and step into life is kind of like being naked. I begin to feel naked without these issues, without these problems. So when to step into a greater life, although it sounds good in a self-help kind of sermon, it's really a scary thing to do because it means I have to give up my identity, which sometimes are these issues, sometimes these problems, sometimes these fears and inhibitions. Sometimes we can get so caught up in them that if there was a better way of life in front of us, we couldn't really embody it because we're so ingrained in the practice of these issues, in the practice of the self-judgment. We have to move beyond that, which means continuing to do this inner work. I shared a couple months ago about that analogy that all of us have heard before about seeing the glass as either half empty or half full. We all know that one, right? And for me, when it comes to spiritual life, I've learned for myself that the way to live is to really be able to see the glass both as half full and half empty. To see it in both senses. To always have water in my glass, to always enjoy it no matter what it is, and yet to always have some emptiness. To always have room for more to come in. That the best way is always halfway. And that if I'm frustrated with the content of my life, the goal isn't to fill up the glass, it's to go and get a bigger glass. It's to go and get a bigger container so that I can always be filling up and always open to more. And how do we get that bigger container in our lives? How do we grab that greater glass? It's through that inward expansion. It's through opening ourselves up. It's through doing our spiritual practices. You can give them any name what you want, but they're meditation, they're forgiveness, they're prayerfulness, they're all of these things that help expand who we are on the inside. And I think it's so important when we view spiritual practices. I think we're always mistaken when we see that their main tool is to try and create things outside of ourselves. I think the wisest way to see spiritual practices is that it always does something within ourselves so that we can better embrace and create around ourselves. I think we get this with something like meditation, where we recognize that when we meditate, it doesn't necessarily make our life more peaceful, but it certainly makes us more peaceful, right? So that we can walk into our life, whatever it is that's going on. But I wonder if we had a stronger common view of forgiveness that didn't see it so much as trying to let go of somebody's dumb behavior around us, or even if it was our own dumb behavior, but that there's such thing as an inner forgiveness, which is about going within and saying to ourselves, I will no longer be held back by this circumstance that I allow to limit me. To go within and say, I will no longer be held back by this self-judgment. I will no longer allow myself to be held back by somebody else's judgment of me that I allowed myself to fall into. There's something about an inner forgiveness which says and opens up that says, instead of living with a limited idea of who I am now going to resume a process of living in accordance with my highest virtues and ideals and a greater love and sense of the sacred. I think we can do this with something like prayer too, and I do believe that you can ask God for something and God may even give it to you. I believe in that, but to me, the real powerful kind of prayer is the kind of prayer that says, God, don't grant me something in my life, but make me ready in my life to say yes when my good arrives. Make me capable of living that life that can contain my heart's desire. Help purify me and open me up so that I may see that my life as it is right now is filled with every opportunity I need to co-create with you, dear Spirit, that life and that love of my dreams, which is your truth in my life. When we're able to utilize this practice that nurtures our own being, we're able to confront life in a way that we don't need to be afraid of it, even when it's dangerous, but that where we can be sincere in it, we can be part of that life itself. So just in a closing prayer today, I'm not going to speak my own words, but just some words from Ernest Holmes, who was a writer of many intellectual things, but also a mystical poet as well. And this is a mystical poem and prayer he called "My Own Shall Come to Me." So if you'd like, I invite you, if you'd like, to close your eyes and just allow his words to be your own. He says, "From far and near my own shall come to me. Even now it is coming to me, and I receive it. My own is now manifesting itself to me, and I see and know its presence. My own shall know and respond to me. My own cannot be kept from me, neither can I keep my good away from me. I receive my good now. My own shall find me. No matter where I go, it will follow and claim me. I cannot hide myself from my own. My own shall come to me, even though I deny it. For there is nothing in me that can hinder it from entering and taking possession of my soul. My own is now express." And so we say, and so it is. And I thank you for being here this morning. Have a great Sunday.